There we go. Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome to another Kaizen Central. I don't know quite what the weather's been like around your way. We were just having a chat a few minutes ago about the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It was quite rainy, not quite plagues of locusts, but almost that. I'd like to welcome, you're going to have to explain to me how you pronounce your name. Alice, you're on mute. Please let me unmute you. Sorry, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Czech Republic, and my name is Aleš. It's like Alex, but Aleš.
And you're speaking to us from where, Aleš?
I am in the Los Angeles in the United States. We have a beautiful weather right now here, sunny.
I have a daughter in LA. She lives in Santa Monica, and every time I speak to her by Zoom or whatever, I bitterly look at the blue sky and think, oh my God. Aleš, there's a story about how you come to be with us, and it involves Mr. Hagen, Richard Hagen, who can't be with us tonight. But your company, EcoGate, built and created the sensors inside the dust extractor that he put on his factory in Rochdale, Lancashire. And because of the work you were able to do for him, it enabled him to keep his factory because he could, the data he got from the sensors could persuade the local authority to give him permission, environmental permission, that he was meeting all the requisite standards. That's a terrific story about how you did that. Just tell us a very little bit about EcoGate and what you do.
So our story actually started 20 years ago with my uncle Peter, also from Czech Republic. And he was cameraman and director of photography, but his hobby was woodworking. So he was doing the beautiful furniture as a hobby in his garage. And he purchased a very small dust collector, 1 horsepower. And every time he came back to his living area, his wife was upset. She said that it's not working, that dust collecting. You know, it can cause the cancer if you are breathing the sawdust. And but unfortunately, his power connection in his garage didn't allow him to purchase the bigger one. So he called me, and I was working in the control systems around the world. And he asked, you know, I have this problem. Can you help me to solve that? I said, you know, I can certainly solve that, but I will do it only if we can run the new business out of that, if that is problem we can solve for others. And he immediately next day bring the article from Wall Street Journal that there are 12 million amateur woodworkers in the United States who are using the woodworking as a hobby. I said, okay, let's try to do something for that. So we developed a system where we can actually close the gates on the machines which are not working and open the gates on the machines which are working. And now the small 1 horsepower dust collector can handle all his machines in the shop. His wife was happy, and we started 20 years ago the business. And we were at woodworking show in Atlanta. We were showing to woodworkers what we are doing. And then guys from the large factories stopped by. Wow, that's beautiful. Can you do something bigger for the bigger factories? And we said, yeah, we can do it. So 20 years ago, we started to do the improvements of the extra dust extraction systems for bigger factories. To our surprise, there were no computers in use in United States and in Europe for the dust extraction system. That system was, at the time, every car had 6, 7 small computers. Dust extraction didn't have any. And so we start using the computers, we start using the variable frequency drives. Soon we discovered that we need to manage the flow, not just the opening, closing the gates, and adding the sensors exactly as we done that for crystal doors. So that's our story. We are now the 20 years in the business. We were just recognized as the fastest growing privately owned companies in the US.
Sorry, Alish, that's a great story. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. For those who've just come on a little bit while Alish was speaking, he's based in Southern California. His company is EcoGate. And his company supplied the dust extractor for Richard Hagen's crystal doors. Richard can't be with us tonight, but it's a great story, and we're very pleased to have you, Alish. It's great to see you. Lovely to see everybody else joining us. We're beginning to line up ideas for future topics and guests, and I ought to just run that very quickly past you. Steve Murphy and Ram have been working on the possibility of, this was mentioned in last week's meeting, about a discussion around the quality of management in manufacturing and how to improve it. Rather than just have a discussion about it, they want to put a little bit more structure around it. So we're going to address that in the new year. Next week, as our guest, we've got John Mills, the founder of the JML Group. That's a global company. I mean, it's massive. They sell gizmos, basically, that you'll find in places like Wilkinson's and Robert Dias, end-of-aisle TV displays, that kind of thing. He has founded the Institute for Prosperity, whose goal is to bolster the size and prosperity of the manufacturing sector in the UK, because he believes manufacturing is the engine that will drive our economy out of its current condition into a brighter future. He's an advocate of low exchange rates for the pound, and he's also an advocate of Brexit. He was a founder member and supporter of the Vote Leave campaign, and he's the biggest single donor, personal donor, non-union donor to the Labour Party. And he's coming on next week to discuss the Institute for Prosperity, tell us what the goals are, how he thinks we could achieve it. And I think what we ought to do is to challenge him and offer him some grassroots opinion. We may agree with what he says, may not agree, but I'd really like to have a discussion about that. And I'd like some real, as I say, some strong discussion. I've got Caroline Flint, the former Labour cabinet minister, is chairing his board of directors. And I'm meeting her next week virtually to do an interview with her, which I, of course, will share with everybody. That should be quite interesting. She's been writing some very strong pro-manufacturing stuff in local and national press of late. Week after, I think we're going to have as a guest the MD of a company in Lancashire, which acts as a remarkably efficient bridgehead between academia and manufacturers. They run a talent academy for STEM graduates, and I'm going to have him on to explain how they do what they do, why they're successful. They actually get hundreds. They manage to place STEM graduates in manufacturing, and of course, it's a huge issue for manufacturing that so many talented young people with STEM skills tend to be drawn by the starry-eyed, sexier divisions such as gaming and fintech and stuff like that, and they don't apply their digital skills to manufacturing. Anyway, that's all that. I just wanted to brief you. Now you know. Okay, so it brings us to tonight and what to discuss. And Barry Leahay, very sweetly invited me to take part in the Golden Nugget, and which is Barry, you're going to have to explain what the Golden Nugget is, but basically it's asked me to share a nugget of thought, experience, wisdom, whatever. And I came up with this thing about mission, because I found that if I have mission in what I'm doing in my professional and business life, it not only gives it more sense and more structure and more meaning, but also I find I'm more successful because I'm more passionate about what I do. And I just wanted to find out from everybody whether this is just misty-eyed nonsense, that manufacturing and business generally is about hard-eyed, cold-eyed cash and bottom line, or whether mission is something we all strive for. Barry, very quickly, if I can ask you just to kick off, just 15 seconds about golden nuggets so that everybody knows and maybe they can also take part. It seems like a great idea.
Well, listen, it might take a minute, but so one golden nugget is the idea of a guy called Stephen Foster. Stephen's got a fantastic story himself and a real entrepreneur. And he got in touch with me about 18 months, 2 years ago, and he was putting a book together, and it was a book for business people called One Golden Nugget. And he's currently on his second and third iterations of it, but it's a bloody sizable book with stories in it. There's 700 nuggets in that first one, and I was lucky enough to feature on about page 300 and something, so not near the front for sure. And then you've even got this little pocket book as well that if you're really interested. So if you ever need a bit of inspiration, you can just pull it out of your pocket and read it. And I don't think that's gone down anywhere near as well as he wanted it to a year ago when he launched it. And on the back of that, I think as an entrepreneur, he's failed gracefully almost and gone, right, I'm digitizing this. And he's brought out the One Golden Nugget website. He's doing it on a shoestring, and like every good entrepreneur, I think. And I think he's got something because, Nick did one, and I've probably had another 4 or 5 people that have reached out since. And I'm number 49 as a founder member of it. And you can just see this extrapolating outwards. And if all 49 put half a dozen on, then I don't know what that number is, but if all, there's an etc., the permutations go on and on. And it's just a really quick way of sharing wisdom in a down-to-earth manner. And it's for all different topics, be it mental health or business or marketing or, what your mission is. And I think he's got something. So I said I'd help him, I'd support him, hence why I've been sharing a nugget a week for the last few weeks. And Nick's was there, and it's got a lot of views and people resonate with it, and there's comments and stuff like that. So look it up, One Golden Nugget. And I thought it was a great conversation starter, like you said. Mine, when I put it in the book 18 months ago, I've done a few for him, but was make every day count. It's nothing around what my mission is. It's don't be happy with status quo. Every day add value to something, be it to yourself or the business. And just don't get up and do the same 9 to 5. Every day do something to add value.
Well, thanks, Barry. That's really good. I must check this out more, because Fiona, if I can quickly turn to you, when you're talking to people, because this is very much human growth as well as business growth. Do you talk about sort of airy-fairy notions like mission and things like that? Do they matter? And have I been talking fairy tale nonsense here?
Great question, thank you. I don't think you ever talk rubbish, by the way, Nick. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, would I? So really interesting. I've spoken to a couple of organizations recently, because culture change seems to be part of for those who are really moving forward, it's the area they're focusing on, whilst having survived the last few months. And absolutely, it's definitely about that purpose. So if you look at the Cynic video around why, our purpose, why do we exist? So why do we exist as an organization? And what are our values that underpin that? And that then determines the behaviors across the organization. And for me, that's really quite fundamental. It's that my golden nugget would be your people grow your business. You can have amazing systems, robots, whatever you want, but actually, unless your people are absolutely on board and you're creating the environment where not just the people, but the teams can thrive and grow, and the business at the same time. And it's that whole encompassing purpose that engages people to really want to bring their best self to your workplace.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from anybody. I want to know if anybody disagrees with Fiona. I mean, do we focus too much on things like this, or are we all in general agreement? And if we are, I'd like to know what your mission is and what your purpose is. Who'd like to go?
I think it's nice to feel that you've made a difference, Nick. You know, you go on a job and you work with a team, and at the end of it, you know, you're hot and sweaty and you're tired, but you think we've actually made a difference today, and there's a good feeling for everybody in that.
Yeah, I just wonder, because there are businesses, Alish in the United States and Simon in Washington, DC. We all have experience of companies that were run purely for the bottom line, and the human factor was almost non-existent. I've worked in the United States myself for a company like that. I found it deeply dispiriting. Are you familiar with companies like that? Simon, hello, good evening. We haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, good evening. The place is swimming in them. It's easier to find a company that's working almost exclusively for bottom line than it is. Well, no, it's definitely easier to find one of those than it is to find someone that's got a more philanthropic attitude or a broader sense of purpose. Not that they don't exist, but they are quite. They're much less common. And because the mighty dollar is the mechanism by which, broadly speaking, US society establishes the worth of an individual. You know, people who are very, very wealthy are seen to be successful, regardless of how they gained their wealth, which is unfortunate. You know, it's a sweeping statement, but it's broadly true. But there are a lot of people who have completely the opposite. Most of my clients are healthcare companies, and I discovered early on in my business career over here that I did actually have a mission, but it crept up on me and smacked me in the back of the head one day when I was asked to work on a project that was clearly dead dodgy in terms of what the motives behind the project were. It was it became, I mean, I didn't actually do the work, but someone else did, and it became one of those very well-known price inflation projects where the pricing on a generic product went up from virtually nothing to almost a fortune overnight because the new private equity that had bought the company decided that they wanted to get their money back quickly. I decided I wasn't going to do that project, at which point I realized that I'd been making those sorts of choices for quite some time, steering away from getting projects that I just didn't like because of the nature of the way in which the company was managing themselves, which probably cost me a lot of money over the years. But you know, so I don't care. I'm much happier sleeping at night knowing that I built a global vaccine forecasting system 15 years ago that is suddenly being used by two of the big manufacturers in ways that they never dreamed of. I feel quite happy about that. At the time, I was very disappointed because we built it and they put it in a box and didn't do anything with it until about April this year. And I got an email saying, oh, by the way, we need to upgrade that thing. So that kind of thing, it makes it easier for me because I'm in healthcare to find those sorts of positive nuggets. And I can feel better about whatever contribution I'm making because the end product in many cases are medicines or treatments that do an awful lot of good. But to your question, over here, it really is much more about bottom line, unfortunately. And you only have to look at labor laws. You look at the attitude of a large part of society towards social safety net, and you can see that the individual is not valued. The worker, again, sweeping statement. There are lots of firms that value their employees to the hilt, but there are an awful lot of companies that essentially employ only as many people as they need, pay them as little as they possibly can get away with. And unfortunately, that's where an awful lot of people live.
There's no shortage of those companies over in the UK either. I do assure you, it's not a land of milk and honey over here either. Who else has got some contribution to make on this front about how, there is something more than just the bottom line in there, but nothing wrong with the bottom line in the business at all, by the way. If that's what, if making money for the sake of making money is what it's all about, that's fine. We need everybody in this, but I'm just wondering if higher purpose means anything to anybody else. Who'd like to contribute?
I can offer a view on this from a banking perspective, if you like.
Of course, lovely.
From a bank's point of view, you might expect us to be quite interested in the bottom line figures, and that's certainly the case, and very true. But I think when we look at the sustainability of income over a longer period of time, it's amazing that the number of businesses that have that sustainability are the ones that are run with a higher purpose and that look after people and do things in the right sort of way. Financial performance and driving for the dollar or the buck or whatever else you want to talk about at the bringing costs out of the business as much as possible certainly is a feature that we see. But the very best businesses and the ones I think that leave a lasting impression are definitely the ones that are run in the right sort of way. They're often run by somebody who lives and breathes the business and puts all their energies into it and recruits people who are in the same mold as themselves, who maybe share the same vision. So from our point of view, I think we definitely look for longevity of earnings, and then look at the way in which it's done, not just the pure financial performance. So from that perspective, that's just a take from us and from Santander in the manufacturing world. And on a personal level, I've spent 35 years in the world of banking, and probably the last 10 years have been the most enjoyable. Not probably, definitely the most enjoyable for me, because it's been surrounded by people in the manufacturing sector, and I've found that that is something that really appeals to me more than anything. So banking was a means to an end, I think, and now that dealing with the world of UK manufacturing is actually far more enjoyable than the world of banking. I'd much rather talk manufacturing than banking with anybody any day.
Well, thank you. That's really good to hear. Stephen, good evening to you.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
May I say, Paul, that is a magnificent beard. You're looking very Bond villain, I must say. That is astonishing.
That's where my resemblance to Bond starts and ends, Stephen. But thank you for saying.
I'm just looking for the
villain,
white
actually.
cat.
You missed the villain word, Paul.
I've got a black cat here somewhere. I haven't got a white cat, so I can maybe bring that cat in at some stage.
I suppose I ought to make a point here, but I wonder if this idea of bottom line versus more sort of altruistic or human behavior is actually helpful. I think what I observe most, and I hope I practice in my own business, is if we do the right things as people for people, then actually the bottom line tends to sort itself out. It's a little bit trite to say that, but I've got actual observation that tends to be what happens. Because people who get on with each other, collaborate with each other, partner to partner, or even within a business, they tend to find things that they wouldn't find otherwise if they were much more antagonistic. So we find, let's use that awful word, synergy. We find a synergy between people that creates better ideas, that actually we're better able to sell bluntly. But it comes through that process rather than worrying about the bottom line first. I mean, that's not to say we don't have a commercial view when we're putting these ideas together. We're thinking about who the customer will be, what we can sell it for. But it comes through a spirit of adventure, an interest in how each of us is enjoying our job. And I find that works pretty well. And I see that in a lot of the businesses, not all of them, but a lot of the businesses that I work with as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it's very easy to say a lot of this stuff. I mean, there's a thing called, is it the triple bottom line theory where it's profit, people, and environment, or something like that, and you measure your company and all that. I've heard people say all this stuff, and it's basically greenwash. I mean, they don't really mean it; they just say it to, because it makes them look good. And that's why mission statements. And if I see a mission statement on a company wall, I tend to head for the exit. So it's not because they don't necessarily. It's just, you know what I mean. That all that stuff is a little bit too trite. It's as if the MD said, right, somebody go out and write a mission statement next. So does anybody have a mission statement on their wall, and will they defend it? Ram Shankar. Good evening.
Yeah, hello everybody. Good evening, Nick. Yeah, a couple of things. I wholeheartedly defend my company's mission statement, which is to help people excel at what they do. 7 words. That's it. Doesn't get simpler than that. Secondly, talking about purpose, people will not listen to your purpose unless you show them you've been good at the bottom line. It's because we are used as a society, as planet, as a species, we've been indoctrinated in the principle of success first, philosophy later, which is extremely well represented in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If anybody is not aware of that, I'm sure most of you or all of you know about it. It starts with your needs, security, safety, well-being, yada, 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 and then comes the self-actualization, at which level we really start talking purpose. Let's look at Simon Sinek, Bill Gates, all these high achievers. All of them are on a mission to save the world and talk about purpose only after they've shown that they're capable of bottom line. Had Bill Gates spoken about purpose to eradicate malaria and all that 30, 40 years ago, people wouldn't have said, I don't care what you want to do. What are you capable of doing in terms of revenue? Closer to home, talk about Innovate UK. Look at the Innovate UK application. Not a single question talks about your purpose, what good you're going to do, what they ask you about, what's the market value, who are the team, how are you going to manage it, what are the finances you need, what is going to be the return on investment. 10 questions, not one of them talks about purpose or the greater good. So where is the problem here?
I don't know. I'm not sure there is a problem, but are you suggesting that a government agency should take that into account? I mean, Santander may not necessarily take it into account, but they certainly factor it into a lot of their observations about their best customers. I mean, do you think are you saying Innovate UK should put something in there, or are you happy that they don't?
What I'm saying, Nick, is that the reflection or the reaction of people to these things is a consequence of what they are facing when they apply for these things to grow their companies. If what they see has nothing to do with purpose or the higher purpose or anything, and all it talks about bottom line, that's what people are going to respond to.
Okay. All right, Barry, were you about to come in on that?
Yeah, no, I think there's change afoot there. I mean, it's only very, very small, very, very small. But, you are being asked about decarbonisation, and there's going to be KPIs to hit, and they're going to wrap that in with, we're going to do good for the planet. And I think, I don't know what will be in 10 years, but I definitely change it. Now, I was just going to come and add to your strapline, company straplines and things like that. And we've got values and not strapline and stuff. But to tell you that I went through this a few years ago. I was doing very well in business. Yeah, I was winning awards and being asked to do stuff, and through a connection, I got introduced to a guy called Kevin Roberts. And Kevin, I don't know if you know him, but he was the chairman of Saatchi & Saatchi for 20 years, or Saatchi, however you say it. And so he's a very talented global guy, biggest business, advertising business in the world. And he's a phenomenal guy, and he did some mentoring with me. And he sat me down in that first session. We had a very nice conversation for about 20 minutes, and then for the next 3 hours, he ripped me apart. Yeah, and it started with what's your purpose, Barry? And ask yourselves that question, all right? Because I'm this cocky, I know what I'm doing, where I'm going, what I can do, and every answer I gave him was, that's bullshit, Barry. And his language was probably worse than that, actually, because it's quite colourful. But he just continually ripped into me and was like, no, what is your purpose? If you don't know your purpose, you're not going anywhere. You're just going through the motions every day. And I'm giving him all this, I just want to make every day count, Kevin. And I'm telling you, the last 3 years, he gets you to document it. There's about 20 pages here, but it's about your dream, your spirit, your beliefs, and what character things and what you're focusing on and all of that. But what what your top line purpose is. And it gives you a reason to get up in the morning. And I'd never had that. So, you can say, is it a higher belief? Your purpose might be just to improve your bottom line on everything you do. And if you truly believe that, and that's what you're hearing about, then so be it. But if you want to do other stuff, you'll probably find that bottom line is a byproduct of doing the right thing. It might not be, but you'll live a more fulfilling life. It'll be, and that sounds a bit spiritual, and I'm far from that. I am the least spiritual person you'll ever meet. But I'm telling you, to have it documented helps. So, do think about what, it's a seriously hard question to ask yourself. What's my purpose?
And the thing for me is as Barry said there, if you know your purpose, that will carry through onto your core values of how you operate your business. And you will recruit against those core values within your business. So you end up with a business that you want driving for that purpose. My purpose, I have it on, but it's plastered all over everything I do. The success of our communities comes from the businesses that thrive within it. So I look to shift those businesses, the more businesses, through that high growth, high value gateway. So we will be better socially and economically. So our mind is all around community and driving community. That's my why, and it's plastered everywhere. It's on my LinkedIn profile at the start. It's on all my internet, on all my websites. That's what I do. And if I give time away, I give time away. It is not about money. It is about generating and supporting others, because that gets passed on and grows and brings everybody else up. So for me, there is definitely, I mean, we've had some discussions on this, Bob, I know we have, on this clarity of purpose and understanding, because, vision, everything, all comes into it. It's, some people do say, I don't need a business plan, I don't need a strategy, I don't need a vision. Yeah, well, unfortunately, from what I've seen, yeah, you bloody do. Because it does make a world of difference, very much. There's a picture above my wall here that's got pictures of everything that I want around it. It's a vision, we call them vision boards, but it's there and it's in my eyesight all the time. And that's what it's there for. And I'm like Barry, I'm not spiritual at all and everything like this, but for me, it works. It does work. It worked on powerlifting when I was powerlifting, because you visualize lifting the weight, you picture yourself there, and then you lift it. Athletes do exactly the same.
David, good evening. You're another new member of the hub. What's your reaction to what you've been hearing so far?
Yeah, this is a brilliant conversation. So it's my first session. So hi to everyone. I bought last week. I bought the domain manufacturingwithpurpose.com, which I intend to make juicy. But I think there's lots of literature on the triple bottom line and so on. I think perhaps a bit I could share a story which is a bit closer to home. When I was the manufacturing manager at a previous company, then the boss was talking to me about the quality. He was concerned about the quality of the product, because that was he knew that one of our key accounts was really unhappy about it. And they were a big part of the business. About 40% of the business was this customer. And he was talking about, and over a long period of time, how can we get the effective parts per million down and so on. And then he said, then one day he took me out to the shop floor and he said, look around you. He said, if you imagine this factory with 4 out of the 10 people gone, that's what's going to happen if we lose this account. Those people are going to be out of a job. And that connected with my purpose. And then, my energy around improving the quality just went up by, an order of magnitude, because he hit my he hit a value for me, which was around looking after people, protecting them, and so on. And so he may have been really motivated by revenue. My motivation was around protecting people. And I think, we are no different than our customers. They make a decision on an emotional decision, but they then justify with logic. And I think we are, companies are exactly the same. They make the strongest driver will come from your emotion, not from your from the logical brain, which as engineers, people in manufacturing stuff, that's perhaps where we tend to operate in the more logical world. But where the real power is, where the real decision making is actually in values and the emotional stuff.
Thank you. That's a great story, David. Thank you very much.
Worst day of my life was laying off a team. Yeah. Absolute worst thing I've ever had to do, ever. Just horrible. Mind you, one of the best things I've ever done is the look on someone's face when you tell them they've got the job is brilliant. But laying people off, I don't want to do that again.
Quite so. Yeah, Stephen.
Just a point there, in fact, picking up on something Adam mentioned a moment ago. So we have, if I'm completely honest, we have struggled to take people on because we focus perhaps quite so much on matching values. And I just wondered if anybody else has had that problem. Have we all ended up employing people that we perhaps later regret because they seem brilliant at what they did, and they probably were technically brilliant, but the values didn't match. We've tended not to employ rather than get on with it. And I just wonder what the right balance is, really.
Yeah, that's really difficult, isn't it? Because that's why I hear, Renishaw. I remember when I interviewed, I've forgotten his name now, Sir David McMurtry, the guy who founded Renishaw. We're talking about their absolute focus on apprenticeships. I mean, they are really a very, very powerful apprentice backer of apprenticeships. And he said, why would I want to go and buy somebody in from another company, buying in another company's values, having to sort of reshape people with the values we have, when we can bring in apprentices and grow them right throughout our business, so that we all share the same values and the same purpose. And of course, it made perfect sense. It rather speaks to what you were saying, Stephen. Steve Murphy, hi, good evening to you.
Okay, I'll probably maybe a little bit different, but I'll put myself forward. I would say generally, most of what I do, not just in business, but in every other aspect of my life, is would fall into the category of adventures with my mates, And so when I do work in business, when I work as a consultant, as much as anything, I'm looking for people who want an adventure, and what that usually comes down to is that they want to do something different. They want to put the issues. They want to work on Six Sigma in their factory, or they've got a customer crawling all over them, and nobody wants to do the work, and they need somebody to go in there and focus on that work. And basically, I look on that sort of stuff as an adventure. So basically, I'm just looking for people with who have a spirit of adventure to go in and to look at some of those dangerous things in their factory that need to be done. They don't have an awful lot of choice. The customer's crawling all over them. They need to find a way of doing it within their factory culture, and that's what I enjoy doing. And that's not an awful lot different to playing rugby or rock climbing or scuba diving, dropping off the back of a boat at night. So I look for people when I'm looking for work who want that sort of adventure. When I first started out, I spoke to somebody I'd worked with in Motorola, and he was running a consultancy, and I said, look, this consultancy it's a heap of nonsense in many ways. It's It is a lot of it is nothing more than you call it training, but it barely moves people from unconscious ignorance to awareness, and you reckon they're trained and you give them a ticket. I said, you know, if we really want to start offering stuff to companies, we've got to have a longer term relationship. You've got to be thinking about moving people from unconscious ignorance, they don't even know what they don't know, easily up to well, let's say conscious competence. So okay, they can't do it with their eyes closed, but if you get the book out a bit, that they'll get it right. And so, you know, we started to work on that, and the sort of monies involved is that you can't turn up in your 7 Series Beamer and charge $2,000 a day for that sort of work. You've got to sort of say to yourself, okay, what's a typical day rate? You can get a reasonable day rate out of it. You've got to get yourself an exit strategy as well, because it's a sort of interim role. It's going to take about a year to 2 years to really move the people along, and that to me was an adventure, and that has been most of the work I've done between over the last 10 years. But probably that was typically the sort of work that I did when I was part of a big company. If I would look at the customer requirements, I would say, how do we meet these requirements? And if meeting those requirements meant working with relationships that were considered to be dangerous, or doing work that nobody valued, but it was the work that needed done, I would convince the senior management that we needed to put some effort into this area and demonstrate how it could be done. So I sort of, so that it was that sort of spirit of adventure and doing dangerous stuff is what gets me out of bed in the morning, and helping other people to an extent to do that sort of work and to have the confidence to do that sort of work, because it's often the sort of work that helps the customer, you know, really delight the customer. So, you know, I nearly call what I did, you know, dangerous stuff, but the basic thing is adventures with my mates, you know, and if I don't think somebody's going to be by my side if my air runs out, I'm not interested in working with him, you know. He's going to be the sort of, well, you know, if I fall off, they cross their hands, and doesn't matter how much the rope digs in, they hold me. That's it. So you don't want to be working with somebody who's going, oh, that's £10 worth of equipment we've lost. You're wasting your time. It's adventure, and for me, it's adventures with my mates. That's it.
Well, it takes me back to something we were discussing many weeks ago, and I think Adam expressed it, or maybe it was even you as well, Steve. It was about that, you know, a great motivator, a great purpose can be about your tribe. It can be about your team, your tribe, that feeling of togetherness. That's all that works as well. I mean, that's I would describe that as hugely motivational. Who hasn't said anything you'd like to? I'd love to get Bob's view on this. Bob, I really would love to hear what you have to say.
Got to find the unmute button first. So I'm fine as long as it doesn't involve technology. I'm fine. I think there's a great mixture really from everybody, where I think it kind of sums it all up in the sense that, I mean, I've worked for businesses that are they led their marketplace, so making money was absolute. I mean, that's what you were there for, and you were expected to make more money every year. So, but how we did that, I think, was very humanistic in the main. I'm not saying that now and again we would have new brooms coming in that maybe didn't have that same sense of values and would challenge us. But I think most of it, we were able to sustain a humanity, and that humanity is what fueled the creativity, the sense of adventure, if you like, the explorers that people have talked about, that meant that we pursued very deliberately value creation. And because we were inventive in that, we could actually go out and make money joyfully. It wasn't you know, a drudge. And I think if you can create an environment where your spirit of adventure, camaraderie, and innovation allows you to achieve something not with ease, but with joy, because sometimes it's nothing but hard work. But with joy, then I think that whether it's the team that you talked about earlier, whether it's the sense of adventure that Steve talked about, or the value creation that Barry was talking about, or the fact, as Fiona was talking about, it's about people. Without doubt, it always is about people, and releasing the sense, the power of the person within, so that they work to their best and at their best with others. I think that's what I found is always the way that has created the greatest outcomes for the businesses I've worked with, for the teams I've worked with, for the people I've worked with. And there is a Japanese concept called ikigai, which is, what are you passionate about? What are you good at? What can you make money out of? And what can you bring good to the world with? And I think I've discovered that I'm lucky enough for the one same thing to feed all four things. And that is, I love creating value. I'm good at it. People have made a ton of money out of it, and it's brought good to the world. And I think that's been reflected in everybody's stories tonight. So it's kind of gratifying to know this humanity in manufacturing. So thank you, everybody.
Oh, well said, Bob. Thank you. Roy, I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know, but I'm guessing that you work for the biggest company represented here tonight for Airbus. Does any of this resonate at a corporate level for you, or does Airbus ever talk about its values?
Yeah, all the time. And we have our mission statements and values. But I guess the thing that they've taken a whole sort of world view of it. So we sign up to things like the UN sustainability goals. But the really important thing for me is it's all been translated down to the individual teams and the individual people in the organization. So we all pick little bits from it in terms of what we're doing. So, the people who are focused around sustainable aviation, that's in there. When we're designing, developing secure comms systems, it's all about making a safer and more connected world. A lot of the stuff I do on the early careers links directly into a quality education for everybody, and also into things like diversity. So it's I think when a company just produces those statements and sticks them up in their annual report and on the wall, and then don't do anything about it, that's when you get very cynical about those things. So it's got to change from that into a conversation in the business about what does all of that mean for you personally as a member of this big organization. I mean, I'll go back before my Airbus days to tell you about, the place where I felt the biggest purpose, and that was in the military. I was in the Royal Navy for 12 years, and our purpose was not often stated as a one-line statement, but it was very clear in everything that we were doing that we had a very distinctive purpose. For every time we set sail somewhere, there was a reason we were doing it, and that was communicated to everybody. And back to, I can't remember, I think it was maybe Bob was talking about, it's about teams, a lot of this. And the biggest purpose in the military is mainly to look after your mates and do the right thing and have a good time afterwards. So, I don't regard purpose as a statement. I regard it as something I live and breathe through what I do.
Thank you very much indeed, Roy. I'd like to come to Alec in a minute, but Michael, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was picking up on a lot of what's been said already, but vision, purpose. what I find is really, really useful is the inward-looking vision, you might say, which you have yourself. And what I find is that I write it out every day, because there's something happens in your mind, which is like probably 80% of what goes on in your head is unconscious. And you've got to keep that alive as well. So my vision or purpose is to bring hope and prosperity to thousands all around the world. I find that by writing, I've been doing that a year or two now, writing it out every day keeps your mind focused for the rest of the day. That's the inner vision. The outward one probably is more bottom line oriented. That's greater productivity, faster profitable growth, and better cash flow. So having the inward vision and the outward proposal is probably just about summarize what most people have said anyway. But and just keep that front and center. I think Adam is good, where you can see the board. Yeah, what you called it now, but yeah, that keeps things. It keeps you motivated in all that you do.
I think that one observation I'd make is that very often, and I think this possibly reflects what Adam was saying as well, one of the best goods you can do is actually just to be good at what you're doing and do it well and perform well as a business person. That means paying bills on time and that sort of thing as well, particularly if you're a larger business. Alec, you're driven by a purpose, I believe, I guess, from all that I know of you, in a very distinctive field, and you have an impact around the world. So tell us do you define what you do with a purpose?
And very much so. We have a very strong vision. We would say vision rather than mission as the primary driver. We have a strong belief in that vision. Our vision is to transform an antiquated and wasteful global industry that feeds half the world every day, move it to a sustainable future, and lift millions from food and fuel poverty. That's quite a statement, but we believe that we will go some way to achieving that. And the people who come into our company also believe in that. And if they don't believe in that, they shouldn't be coming into the company, because I think it's picking up on a lot of the earlier comments. Value, we create value. We don't create profit. From that, profit will come. But we're trying to change lives on a personal level and have a massive impact on a more global level. But I think it's all about short-termism at the moment, where we've got, everything's driven by the bottom line. Everything's driven by a need to make a profit today. Where's the long-term building of value in the business? And again, I'd love to invite Paul to come up to Sheffield and see what we're doing here, because we bind with Santander, and the words and the actions don't always align, I have to say. And I think that's true for many a company. We've got the vision statement, we've got the mission statement, but do we believe? And that has to come from the top down. If the top management are not engaged in that, don't believe in it, then how's anybody else going to believe in it? And I think that's our learning. Easier for me because we're a small company, more difficult for the bigger companies. And we hope to be that big company with that problem someday.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know what Alec does, it's new innovative ways of milling rice efficiently and effectively. Is that correct, Alec?
Yeah, it goes way beyond that. From rice, we're making, we've gone into other products now. Today we've been milling beans, barley for brewing, but also we're taking rice husk, making it into a replacement for Portland cement. We're taking rice straw, which is burned as a major polluter, and putting it into fireproof cladding for buildings. So there's many things. We're taking protein from rice bran and turning corn products into vegan products from vegetarian products. So it's not just about sand and rice, but when you talk to finance people, we sand rice. We don't have an app, we don't have a drone, we don't have an autonomous vehicle. so we sand rice, it's what we do. It's not very sexy, but hey, it's half the world lives on it every day, so it's not bad business to be in.
Quite so. Okay, we've got five or so minutes coming up. Adam, please. Yeah.
It was one thing that I was thinking of when Barry was saying about that one golden nugget thing. That's something that stuck with me from very, very early years. And in actual fact, I can't remember whether it was one of the Japanese consultants within McKechnie when I was there with Bob. Said to me, and it's saying that, and I don't know who come out with it, was be better today than you were yesterday. Plan to be better tomorrow than you are today. And I've always lived by that. Always try to do that. And that has stuck with me since my early 20s in doing what we're doing. Is always try and be better tomorrow than you are today, and plan it. You know, that 1% marginal sort of like gain on everything you do compounds. So that marginal gain stuff.
Mark, well, I think that 1% compounded is not bad. I think the British government's going to find that out to its cost. Mark, what about yourself? Does this resonate with you? I mean, like many, some of us here, you're operating in a fairly solo or small team existence.
Well, I'm a great believer in having a very clearly defined goal. And I think the proof of a goal is if all team members can understand it. So whether that's a big organization or a small organization. So I sit in front of a banner that says, helping you make sense of sensors. And the key part of that is working with the customer, the prospective customer, to help them do it rather than just preach at them. A hidden mission, I think, is to really treat others as you wish to be treated. And I'd say a particular thing that I like to hold true, and I'd encourage others to, is own up to mistakes and change things quickly. I think maybe in a world where we compete with Europe, there are other European countries that don't like admitting mistakes, don't like putting things right quickly. As a British cultural thing, if we can just own up, quickly fix things, pay people on time, as you say, then we can differentiate ourselves. So that comes back to the treat people how you want to be treated, really.
Yeah, that's the old golden rule. Lee, good evening. Lovely to see you. Does any of this resonate with you, running a small engineering company?
Yes, 100%. Also with my own personal ethos and listening. It's fantastic conversation. Wish I was here right at the very beginning. So apologies for got stuck on the M5. But in a nutshell, it's all about people. People buy from people. And one element I've always been brought up to believe and is instilled in me is trust and honesty, and admit your failures. Because I'm a left-handed dyslexic person that was educated in the 70s, got caned for getting ink all over my hand, being forced to constantly being called stupid. So it's a question of, it was one person that just said to me, this fantastic teacher that turned my life around, and he said, you may be wrong, you may be misinformed or mistaken, but you are not stupid. So pick yourself up and always be the best you can be. And whether it's tidying your bedroom, doing your homework, if you're going to do something, be the best you can be and do it properly, or don't bother, because life is short. And then he quoted some nice philosophical stuff that took me many years to get my head around. But in a nutshell, I've written one word down here, and it's trust. Now, you're talking about mission statement. We have one to a degree. My own personal one to the team is, don't make me look a dick. And it's as simple as that. Say it how it is. So even if it's bad news, it's a conversation. We're all adults, and customers understand that, hey, something's gone wrong, but we're doing A, B, and C to fix it, and it will arrive at X, Y, Z. So providing you're honest and upfront and honest with customers, a relationship is then built, and it's built about trust. So when you do say, yes, customer, I will get it done by A, no problem. They believe you. Put the phone down, they don't hassle you, they end up paying you on time, and a relationship is built. Now I interviewed a guy for a production managerial role today that I'm looking for, and he's possibly willing to relocate. And my closing statement was, what you have to remember is that you have to buy into us as much as we have to buy into you. So it's a massive commitment for your mental well-being. If your wife and your family don't buy into you buying into us, then it's not going to work. You have to believe what we believe in, and that is being the best you can be at all times. Everything you do. Nobody, the MD picks a broom up and sweeps up when he has to. Nobody is too important.
And somebody mentioned team, and it is all about teams. And my statement as a business development manager when I'm trying to seek new clients is, look, Mr. Airbus, do I need your work? No, I don't. Would I like to make your nice, sexy aerospace widgets? Yes, we would. We have the technology to do it, but we want customers we can work with, not work for. So Airbus's payment terms are not the best, shall we say, putting it politely. And there are more profitable revenue streams out there for a small SME like ours. But having that, knowing from my experience that we have the technology, the capability to make more or less any component fit for purpose for whether it's aerospace, defense, motorsport, whatever it might be, we have the technology and capability. And somebody mentioned apprenticeships. We won Small Manufacturer of the Year for our apprenticeship programs, and we take them on regularly. And we're trying to change culture, but I think it was Jimmy Carter that said, whilst we must embrace change, we must still hold on to our underlying principles. And ours is to do the right thing. It's just, yes, we want to make money. We want to make a margin. We want to be profitable. We want to share that profit with the guys and give bonus schemes. And it's just taking a bit of time. And unless you get the team to buy into that change and take ownership of that change. So I've got a 22-year-old cell leader that's in charge of a 55-year-old guy. And it's fantastic. And they bounce off each other brilliantly. The 50-year-old guy doesn't really want the hassle. He wants to clock in and clock out, earn his money, go home, put his feet up, eat, sleep, repeat. But the young guy, he's willing. He puts in extra hours. He's fantastic. But it's all about being the best you can be. And for having a young guy to come and knock on your door and say, hey, I've just reduced the cycle time on this component by 25% and saved you X on tooling because I watched a video on YouTube last night. Brilliant. That's the kind of ethos that we want. But it takes time to, and you've got to give them ownership. If you give them ownership and trust. So we believe in happy buyers and happy sellers equals fantastic relationships. And we just try and get our guys to be the best they can be. We accept failure, but we learn from failure.
Okay, Lee, I'm going to jump in there because I have one of my principles about running this is to try and let people get off to their dinner at 7 o'clock. So I'm going to thank you, Lee. That was actually a great story. Thank you. I really appreciated you giving us that roundup. I thought that was really, I love everything that everybody said today. It's been terrific, and I really do appreciate it. So I'm going to call a halt. Next week, John Mills is going to be our special guest. I'd love people to get on there and challenge him about how he believes manufacturing can be the driver of the engine of growth out of our pandemic recession. It should be fascinating. He's an interesting character, I think you'll find. Listen, bless you all. Thank you. Really appreciate everything. Barry, thank you for being the catalyst that got me to think about this. I think it's been a fantastic round table. I really do appreciate it. So farewell. See you next time. Take care.